Well, hey, welcome to Writing Science Fiction is Hard. I'm James, and this is the weekly update for December 1st, 2025. 2005, as of yesterday, was exactly 20 years since I got out of the army. That was that was weird to realize. Every time I have to fill out a form asking, "When did your end of service happen?" November 30th, 2005. And if you're younger than me and you're listening or watching, I guess I'll just repeat what everybody says. Time goes way too fast. And the thing I have been feeling most when it comes to work is just how little time it seems like I actually have to get things done. And this week was a good example of that. On paper, I had the week off. In reality, my daughter was out of school. It was Thanksgiving week. We had a lot of things to do to get ready for Thanksgiving. And we also had friends coming to stay with us. And then I had planned a one-page rules gaming session on Sunday morning. So it was actually a busy week. Again and again, it's proven to me that the only thing that actually moves the needle when it comes to getting writing done is getting up in the morning and doing work like this. Like anytime I think that I'm going to do some writing during the day, like it might happen in little fits and starts when I have the computer open, it's right in front of me. But the fact is, I'm trying to not have the computer, not be at the computer if I'm not actively doing something, because it really frustrates my family, and I don't want to do that. So when I'm out in the office in the morning, that's when I work. I will say that it's been working really well to get up in the morning. Like I do feel that I've programmed my body at this point that 9 o'clock, 9:30 rolls around and I am zonking out to go to sleep. And then at 4:30, like quite often, 4:20 happens and 4:20, and I come awake before my alarm goes off. This morning was actually a surprise where I was surprised by the alarm, and that hasn't happened in a few days at least. So that really feels like a win. That's something that has been a big change for me. And I've talked about that before, but I had to get some health things squared away, and then the way my nightly routine has been working, it just had really been off whack. I would stay up too late, I would eat at night, and it really just wasn't healthy. And I'm reminded of that when my dad is he'll turn 80 next year. And one of the things that really frustrates him or is really difficult for him is that his sleep is just completely disordered. He doesn't go to bed until 1 or 2 in the morning, and then he doesn't get up until, noon a lot of times. And he's retired. It's not a big deal, but it does become a big deal when we were talking about attending an event that was at 12:15 in the afternoon. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to make that because I don't know if I'll be able to get to sleep." And I didn't want to tell him like not to sleep. He needs to sleep. But he also doesn't know what time it is quite often. Like I'll call him and he doesn't know what time of the day it is. And the same thing with our 7-year-old with trying to get her to go to sleep. She will want to stay up as long as possible until she finally falls asleep. And then she's tired when she wakes up. And it just, you realize like how important sleep is. So if you're not getting good sleep, I for most of my life, I just never really thought about sleep that much. Or if I did think about sleep, it was how long can I push this off as long as possible before I fall asleep? Because sleep was secondary to anything else that I wanted to do. And until I really had a hard time focusing, that's when I felt like the chickens came home to roost on that, right? Like my mind didn't work right. I was in a fog. I was jumping between subjects all the time. I still do that, as you may have noticed from listening to me talk, but it was really bad. I just couldn't get anything done. So that is a real win for me. And it's something that I really want to keep going if I can. I certainly plan on it. The only thing that I don't like about it is that now if 9:30 rolls around and like my wife is still up, I like to, or she's even just getting ready for bed, I like to kiss her goodnight before we go to bed, say goodnight. And like last night, I was out. uh, so that's not great. I do feel like my body has just decided, okay, it's time to turn off, and boom, out it goes. But consistently, I'm able to get up in the morning, and that has been huge because I'm consistently getting work done, which is a thing that I hadn't been able to do last year. So that's been good. This week, Thanksgiving, Christmas tree, Christmas lights, friends visiting, the One Page Rules game on Sunday, all of those things took preparation. And that was something I hadn't thought about enough in my conception of this week. And then you add all of that on top of that, a 7-year-old bouncing around, and everything that she wants is the priority, not what you want. That just means that the only time to get things done is during the time I can control, which is in the morning. One of the things that was always said at Target was control what you can control, which is basically a stoic concept. It's kind of funny that Target leadership had stolen that idea and nobody attributed it to Seneca, I'm pretty sure. But control what you can control. Don't get mad about the things you can't control. So I can control when I get up in the morning. I'm very happy that we got our Christmas tree up early this time around. It looks beautiful. I got Christmas lights up on the house, which is always a thing I've never been great at. And they look great. I also got them all on timers, so I don't have to go outside and turn things off or turn them on at night, which is lame. And we got to spend some great time with friends. The One Page Rules game, if you're not familiar with that, it's started from folks that wanted to play, I think, games like Warhammer 40K, which apparently is very complicated. I have never played Warhammer. But when they say One Page Rules, basically what that means is kind of like one page of pointers to all the other things that you need to do. So that was kind of funny. I read the rules, but then I realized about 30 minutes before my friends were going to come over that a big part of that game is making your armies, which dictates everything about how you play. And I hadn't spent a lot of time looking into how I was going to put my little army together. So I ended up just grabbing one that somebody had already made offline. And it turns out that my army was very squishy and mobile, while my friends' armies were berserkers and tanks. And so I only scored 1 point out of 3 rounds. My friends scored, I want to say like 2 each. So needless to say, I didn't win. My daughter inserted herself, but it was pretty cute. I think next time I need to, one of the things I could 3D print is probably a dice roller, because she got really excited about rolling the dice, and then you basically have like die thresholds or hit thresholds when certain things happen, like if you're defending or you're attacking. And so she had a lot of fun separating out the dice. But that all took time. So maybe the game took longer than it should have. It was still great that she was involved, and I'm not going to act like that wasn't awesome, because my friends were also very patient with her, and we built all the obstacles for the playing table out of Lego. So that was fun. And it was just a great day. After that, we didn't do a lot of anything except get ready for the rest of the week, which is fine. That's what Sundays are for, right? It felt like a very busy week, which is also a thing I just need to mark up. While a week might seem like it's not going to be busy, everything else in your life gets a vote. So don't forget to consider those things. And don't forget to hug the people you love, because that probably needs to be on your list to do that. Another thing that happened, so it was Black Friday, right? I spent a lot of time working for Target and retail, so I think about Black Friday and the ways it has changed, and Cyber Monday, and what people are excited to buy and what they're not excited to buy, what things cost, which is obviously a big topic right now. Food gets more and more expensive, and hard drives get cheaper and bigger. That's weird. That's kind of the world we're living in right now, right? It used to be I remember the day when a 10 megabyte, I shouldn't say 10, yeah, I want to say like a 50 megabyte hard drive external was $200. Like, can you even believe that now? Like, I was amazed when SD storage came out and I was able to buy like 150 megabyte pocket sized thumbstick and put all of my writing on it and carry it around with me. I made like a web starter file that I could just load up and it would link to everything I wanted to open on that thumb drive. And I'm not that old. At least I don't think of it that way. If you're 30, you probably think I'm old. And that's why I'm talking to you, because I hope that you can learn from the things that I have experienced. And if you're 20, even more so. Look at what that guy did. I don't know if I want to go that way. But also the world is changing so fast that I hope what I'm saying is helpful in the broad scope of things. So going back to Black Friday, one of the things that my family has been caught up in is Lego. And so I have found myself focused on what Lego costs, like cost per piece. They have a really interesting economy around how long things are available, what the like secondary market prices are, retail prices versus Lego prices. And right now is a time where a lot of stuff gets discounted. And I think if I really want to enjoy this going forward, like I probably should create a Lego budget throughout the year that I save for the end of the year, because a lot of cool stuff does go on sale up to like 50%. A lot of things are just average of, 20 to 30%. But they also rolled out the Star Trek Enterprise set. And a lot of people that are not Trekkies and not into Lego looked at this and were just like, because it was 3,000 pieces. It came with, I want to say, like 7 special minifigures, all the way from Riker to Picard to Geordi to Worf, Whoopi Goldberg's character. People are going to hate me for not remembering her name. I just remember the hat from when I was a kid. Will Wheaton's character, who I also can't remember his name, and I probably should. So those are all unique. You're not going to be able to find those in other sets. It's a big set, which also played into my decision not to buy it because I didn't know what I would do with it afterwards. But it was $400. And the way Lego seems to play out, it's about $100 per 1,000 pieces, regular retail price. So this one was already overpriced at $400. And they did a really good marketing thing where if you bought it day of, there's a limited edition shuttle that came with another minifig. And one of the things about Lego as well is that the minifigs, like one of the big things that happens with Lego is people buy them, take all the minifigs out, fill the boxes with junk and return them, which is just a jerk thing to do because in the stores turn around and resell it. But the minifigs have a whole market on their own of people selling those for various prices. And could I afford a $400 Lego? Yes. Are we trying to tighten down our budget in a number of other ways? Also, yes. We're finishing some pretty big home renovations. I wanted to pay that off as soon as possible, so I signed up for a home equity loan at 6% interest, which was low compared to the other interest rates they offered, but it's going to be paid off in 6 years, which means the payment is higher than I wanted it to be. And means that we don't have as much disposable income for me to spend $400 on a Lego set. There's also the fact that I had just been working on a pretty cool set it's called a heavy loader spaceship, and it was 1,000 pieces, and it's taken me about a month now to put it together because I was only doing like maybe 1 bag a week when I had time to sit down and do it. Lego sets are divided into bags. The bags tend to take about a half hour, and this is a big set, so it took time to, make space for it and then put it all away. And I just saw the Enterprise being the same thing, and I would need a place to work on it. So thinking about the debt of all those things, I just it was going live Friday at midnight, or maybe it was Thursday night at midnight, I think, to be live on Friday for Black Friday. And I was watching it because I'm on the West Coast, so that meant it went live at 9 p.m. for me, which is a reason I don't have to stay up late to do that. Probably would have been easier if it was like regular time. But it turned over like 8:55, and I checked the website, and it was available. And I put it in my cart, and the Specialty Shuttle popped up. And all the things were there to try and convince me. Like PayPal has this whole thing where you can split it into 4 payments for no interest. And, you know, the resale value on the shuttle, if I want to sell it, was like already at $100, which would lower the price to $300. And all these reasons you should do this. And I didn't do it. Took it out of my cart and closed the website. And then I went back at 9:01 and the site was crashed. So many people were trying to buy this thing, and currently it's sold out. And that's the story of that. And it'll be interesting to watch. Like, it may become available again. But there are other sets that I kind of wish I just hadn't been into Lego when they were available. Like, there's a Voltron set that when it came out, it was like $300, but it's all 5 lions and it makes the big robot. And that one is consistently like $700 now if you want to buy it. And you reach a point where if you buy that, like, you can't open it and build it. Or if you you might as well just say, I'm paying $700 for an experience, which is fine if that's what you want to spend $700 on. But I don't know. I just was really feeling the programming on this one, the nostalgia, I grew up watching Next Generation. So it's like they're even nailing that. You know, I grew up watching original Star Trek on a black and white TV when I was a kid because my parents just gave us an old black and white TV. And that was our babysitter forever. So every day I watched Star Trek. And then The Next Generation was my first experience of watching really a long-term TV show with my family, because we would sit down and watch Star Trek, and my dad liked to watch it, and he would almost never watch TV with us. So that was special, you know, and so that would be pretty neat to have a thing that sort of commemorated that. But it was big, it was expensive, and that's not what I want to get out of Lego right now. Like, actually, for the one-page rules game, after we built all those obstacles out of Lego, my daughter spent the rest of the afternoon just free building with Lego. And we built a whole like forest scene out of trees and leaf pieces. And that was awesome. To me, that was Lego and what I want her to do with Lego and how I would like to experience it with her. Not buying a set, building the set, putting it on a shelf, and then never letting her touching it because, oh my God, it was $400. So yeah, I did not buy the Lego set, but I was just really feeling the programming. And I might talk about that in another video or something, or podcast, because I feel as writers, there is a lot of programming around on things you should buy, money you should spend, things that will somehow enable you to write. And it used to be just hardware. Now it's software platforms. It's choosing between software platforms. Anymore, I just write in Word. And the big reason I do that is because all the editors I've worked with want Word. They really don't like using Pages from Apple or Docs or, you know, LibreWord or things like that. Like, they can, but as soon as you send them that document, they're just, can you send it to me in Word? And then if you don't have Word, and the best way to get Word is to wait for deals and buy the family plan. And then you also get storage with that. And I don't use Copilot that much, but Copilot comes with it. And that's much less expensive than buying Scrivener or Ulysses or all of these other platforms that are out there. Dabble. You can just spend so much money and you're not actually doing work, right? Or enjoying the thing that you're doing. You can buy classes. There's so many classes. Everybody has a class. And after a while, it gets pretty frustrating, especially if you're not making enough money to cover the things that you're buying. And you can only run a deficit for so long if you're actually trying to do this as a business. So that could be another episode. I do want to talk about economics of doing this as a business, because I think that's a really important thing to think about if you want to somehow do this full time. which at this point in my life and the way the market is, I actually don't recommend that based on firsthand experience from friends of mine who do this full time. But that's also another topic. All right, let's talk about what I want to get done this week, or what I did get done writing-wise last week. So I finished The Wraith of Ascalon, the short story for the Insert Coin anthology from Raconteur Press. 8,000 words. I came in at 7,999 words. And that became a real exercise in cutting and clarifying. And if I hadn't had to deal with that word count, I probably could have made that story 10,000 words pretty easily. Also, this is a submission story, so there's no guarantee it's even going to be published. I would like to think that I think it came out well. I liked what it did, so I hope that they'll like it. If they don't, well, it was a good exercise for me, but it did take up time I probably could have been spending on other things. But that's a muscle I would like to exercise, where writing a 5,000 to 8,000 word story using a prompt and going through the process of building out the prompt, starting the story, and finishing it. And probably not devoting as much time to it as I did with this one, or planning ahead more to get that done. And I'll talk about that in a second. I'm within 3 chapters of finishing Lyssa's Vengeance. I'm at 105,000 words. I finished yet another, 2 pretty major movements in the story to wrap up where those thread lines are at. And so now it's really just, I have one last one to finish up with my character Kara to set up that piece of the story. And then I need to do 2 kind of characters reflect on the state of things stories, or chapters, I should say. And that's it. It's done. So that is exciting. I'm very excited about that, because I have been working on this for 4 years. And that is much longer than I've ever worked on anything. It's much longer than I've maintained a thing in my brain. And a tool that has been incredibly helpful is Notebook LM, because it used to be you'd spend a lot of time trying to do a world, like a notebook for your world or a guidebook kind of thing. And Notebook LM, I've been able to create a personalized sort of research document of all 14 of the novels, anything else I've written related to this, the current work in progress. And I can go back and ask, what a character's eye color was, how many times this character appears. It's pointing out to me where names got misspelled. So that might be a thing to go back and fix at some point. If I come up with what I think is a pretty interesting turn of phrase, how many times have I used that? And it will pull that up for you. Boom, 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 boom. And here are the references, so you can look at it. And it's not like it's hallucinating. It's going through the actual reference material and finding you the references to what you're asking for. And that is so useful. It does other things, like it'll come up with stupid podcasts and conversations about the story. That is much less interesting to me. And especially as people started uploading that stuff to YouTube as sort of fake audiobooks about another book. And I got burned a couple times where I was looking for a book and I was like, oh, is there an audiobook of this? And I start listening to it and I'm like, wait a second, this sounds familiar. This is Notebook LM's dumb podcast conversation thing. So it's just AI slop. But if you have a big series, this is pretty useful as a way to check continuity, check character details, check plot details. It will summarize different pieces of the plot that you might be looking for. I don't trust that as much, but it's useful to go back and look at the references that it's looking at and see if it's interpreting the way that you would. And it's included with my Google account that I currently have, because I buy storage from Google. So it's a pretty useful feature. I think if you have not been using it, I would check that out. And if you have a series, at least even 1 or 2 books, or you're working on book 2, it's pretty useful for that. I have been digging into the editing on Retreat Hell, and I'm ready to start working on the outline for the next book. So that's something I'll be working on this week, getting the bones of that and then getting it mapped out. And like I've talked about, I really want to dig into the summary outline of the next book, so it's just very detailed and very clear on what the characters are doing, when they're doing it, and that it's the right amount so that it's not too much and I don't run out for a 100,000 word novel. And that plays into one of the things that I did. So Raconteur is a press that has been doing these anthologies, right? Which I think probably better to think of them as magazines, the number of them that they're publishing. They're at, I think, 70 now. And each of them has a theme. If you go back through they're being put up as like a series on Amazon, which is interesting. So when somebody finishes one and they're reading on Kindle Unlimited, which is where it seems like most of the reading is taking place, it's going to lead them right to the next one. So that's pretty genius. That's a smart thing to do. It does seem like the read through might be dropping because it's kind of hard to tell. Like some of the oldest ones have upwards of, hundreds of reviews, and then they do decline as time goes on, but it does seem like there's a bit of pickup with some of the middle to older anthologies where maybe they're getting more pickup later on. A little hard to tell because I was basically just going back and trying to study what they're doing because that is their business model. And there seem to be a lot of people involved with the operation. So it really seems to be like a labor of love as far as what the income might be. It's an income sharing model, so it's not like anybody's going to get rich, even if an anthology did go crazy, because it's going to be split between, like 15 people. And that's fine. If they're making a thing that exists, they're making stuff that is on the themes and prompts that they're interested in doing. I've said this many times. I just wish they weren't using AI art. Or at least it really looks like they're using AI art. I would say that to them if I talked to them, but that's also it's a big expense. I get it, but there might be artists that would be, I don't know. I would just rather people didn't use AI art. But what I did do was they've listed all of their open calls for 2026, and they're pretty much broken out one per month. And there's one that's going to close on the 5th of December, which was like a Lost Worlds pulp type idea. And that sounds interesting. I would like to write something in that. But at this point, that's 5 days to get that finished. So I don't know that that's going to happen. I spent some time mapping it out. I was so kind of a neat feature I hadn't messed with in Google Docs is they now have tabs where you can it's kind of like making a portfolio from an idea. So the first page could be the anthology information, the story prompt, and then each tab could be a different sort of outline prompt or outline concept. And I was working with ChatGPT and trying to come up with some different plot concepts. And each one, the thing about ChatGPT you always have to remember is that the first one it gives you is going to be very generic. The plot ideas will be very generic. And it also just jams way too much incident into any given plot point that it tries to give you. So if you say, I want to write a 6,000 word story, I want you to give me 6 750 word scenes to go into that, which that's still almost 2 scenes depending. And it will just jam way too much stuff in there. And so I was using it more to sort of jog my, like, okay, that sounds interesting. Okay. I wanted to call back to the beginning. Okay. The ways that it thinks to do callbacks are typically dialogue based. And so they're not as strong as other types of like bringing a story full circle. It doesn't really know anything about character development, which is pretty obvious. And while a lot of the things it comes up with are kind of general, okay, we're going to do a lost world, like we'll do a planet that has dead cities. And I like that concept. We're going to do tribes. We're going to do a local warlord kind of thing. Like, okay, we're just doing Mad Max. That's pretty standard. What kind of interesting characters can I put in there? But by the time you start building out that world building to get that to really be clear and make sense, like I actually rewrote the opening of this story. I'm on my 4th one now, which is it's just an exercise for me, I think, in how to pack as much world building as I can, start the story in the right place. With each iteration, I knew more about what I wanted the characters to do and what they sounded like. But it's also kind of wasting a lot of time. But another thing that I wanted to note in this, in my follow-up today is I've been writing with two Word docs right next to each other. And so I'll have the main one I'm working on, which has been Lissa's Vengeance in this case, and then a secondary one, which was the short story or something else. And when I run into a block on Lissa's Vengeance, I switch over to the other one and start writing on that until something comes back to me on Lissa's Vengeance. And that has been a really good way just to keep word count going rather than switching off out of writing mode into something else. And tying this into making different profiles on my Windows PC so that I have to log into a completely different profile that I'm not logged into anything else on. And all I can really do is the task that I want to do and listen to music. It's been pretty effective. Like, I think that's why my word counts have been so good this last week. And that's a thing I'm definitely going to continue doing. So going forward with this week happening, continue editing Retreat Hell, reading through the edits on that, outlining. I'll see where it goes with this Lost World story. Like, if I can't just knock out 6,000 words across 3 days, like, I may abandon it because I don't want to spend that much time on it. But Friday is the deadline. We'll see what happens. The 3 chapters in Lissa's Vengeance, and then my writer deck essay for PlanetSide, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association nonfiction magazine. That needs to get finished this week. I said I was going to finish it last week. I didn't. I need to add it to my two pieces on one page kind of process because I just didn't open it. So I think if I opened it and started dinking around with it, it will get done. Because I need to go back and look. I mean, from the time they approved the story, I have 45 days to finish it. I really just wanted to hurry up and finish it. I need to take some pictures of different devices that I have. And that'll be done. It's only 1,000 words. So it's actually, the more I dig into this topic, and every day I go to the subreddit and somebody's doing some new interesting thing that could add to it. So I just need to get it to bed. And the whole point of it is to point people at the places where other writers are doing this cool thing that you should go check out, which is mostly in the Writer Deck subreddit. So yeah, really finish Lissa's Vengeance. and I'm so close. Maybe do another short story, continue editing on Retreat Hell, and get the summary outlined out and get that fleshed out. I would like to get that done this weekend. Oh, and then I also have 2 episodes of the Military Science Fiction podcast to just finish and get uploaded. So that's going to happen. They're recorded. They're actually edited. I just need to upload them. So that will happen as well. Yeah, I think that's everything. I don't have a lot of other big things happening at work. Or in life, things are calming down a bit as we head into the holidays. I think I say that, and then we'll see what happens. I go into the holidays, my daughter will be out of school. So gotta remember that, because she gets a vote with anything that I try to get done. As she should. All right. Well, hey, thank you for hanging out, and I will see you next time. It'd be cool to know what you're working on, so let me know. Any word count wins you've had, I love to hear about it. And I watched a video, which I'm not sure if I'm going to respond to, but I might link to it, where a guy basically talks about how he feels cursed to be writing full time. I still am not quite sure how I feel about it, but maybe it'll make you feel better. Maybe you'll commiserate with him. He obviously has stuff he's working out. So he made the video. I'm glad that he did that. I'll put the link in the notes. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for stopping by.